not forgiving can have tremendous negative consequences in our lives, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The consequences of not forgiving can be much greater than forgiving. They are much greater, the consequences of not forgiving. Forgiving releases you from them. It doesn't release the offenders from the consequences of whatever they did to you. They still have to deal with that. And maybe they're aware, maybe they're not aware.
Welcome to the EQ Gangster Podcast, where you will learn practical tools to grow your mental and emotional health and intelligence to be the best version of yourself, both at work and at home. It is real, raw, and transformational. The journey of emotional growth isn't easy, but it's worth it. I believe in you.
EQ Gangsters. So I apologize up front for the heavy breathing. I'm on a walk right now, and there's beautiful birds chirping. This episode is going to be on forgiveness. Kind of out of the blue on this walk, really interesting. I just feel compelled to do an episode on forgiveness. I'm grateful for rain and the trees and pine trees and all kinds of trees, oak trees and birds, different kind of birds, cardinals and blue jays, robins and sparrows. I'm grateful for my health, for being able to do physical training, exercise. Grateful for the people that God has placed in my life. So grateful. Okay, forgiveness. So, forgiveness is more about you and your relationship with God and your relationship with yourself than even the offending party. Forgiveness, there's books written on this stuff, so I'm not going to be able to do forgiveness justice in a podcast episode. Not forgiving can have tremendous negative consequences in our lives, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The consequences of not forgiving can be much greater than forgiving. They are much greater, the consequences of not forgiving. Forgiving releases you from them. It doesn't release the offenders from the consequences of whatever they did to you. They still have to deal with that. And maybe they're aware, maybe they're not aware. Hopefully you've talked to them about how they affected or impacted you. Sometimes maybe you have, sometimes you haven't. So one of mine, I don't necessarily recommend kids maybe listen to this particular episode because I'm just going to share, a rough, I won't go into details, but I've said it a number of times on my podcast. I was molested when I was 5 by someone close to our family. And, I was 5. I had no idea how to process it, how to think about it. And so what happens is, there's a lot of things that happen when you get when you get trauma. And, for many years, I had not forgiven them. Now, here's another difference. There's a difference between forgiving someone and still feeling the feelings. You can forgive somebody and still not want to necessarily restore the relationship. And that's okay. You have a choice in that. Again, sorry for my YouTube people that are watching this bounce. So you can forgive and choose to not restore the relationship. Now, depending on who they are in your life, is restoration a good thing sometimes? Yes, absolutely. That is an option. You get to choose that. You get to choose the timing. You get to choose all that. What I'm encouraging you to do is to forgive, which does not require anything on the offender's part. They don't have to ask for forgiveness. They don't have to acknowledge the harm or pain they've caused you. You can still choose to forgive. A lack of forgiveness can turn into bitterness and jadedness and cause your heart to shut down, so to speak. And being bitter and in unforgiveness can be like drinking poison and then hoping the other person dies. And obviously that's not how it works. Unforgiveness hurts us. It doesn't hurt them. There's a couple other folks that took me a long time to forgive. And I've forgiven them, and I don't want to be in a relationship with them. I have no desire to be in a relationship with them, so, and that's my choice. And so, but I've forgiven them. I just don't want to see them or be around them or spend time with them. But I have forgiven them. And now, if I was around them, if I ran into them at the airport or the gym or the grocery store, I would acknowledge their presence, but I would not go hug them and kiss them on the cheek and, oh my goodness, I've missed you so much, right? I'm not going to do that either. So, in Matthew chapter 6, God talks about the importance and the impact of forgiveness. If we don't forgive others, God won't forgive us. Think about how much, and again, just bringing some spiritual stuff into this. How many times do I fall short from my relationship with the Lord? Every day. So who do I think I am to not forgive somebody else when God could choose to not forgive me 10 times a day, 100 times a day? And so if we want God to forgive us every day because of all of our failures, shortcomings, sins, whatever, then we need to be willing to forgive others. And again, it's not easy. And also realize that you can forgive and still feel some kind of way. You can, right? You can still feel the pain or hurt of the offense and still forgive. So when you forgive, that does not mean that the emotions are going to go away from the offense from the pain that they caused. So, but and I wish I could remember, how it goes in Matthew 6, like verbatim. I don't want to misquote it. But it's really important. And again, forgiveness is a powerful, powerful, and important skill. And also, this is huge too, oh man, here's a brutal one. A brutal one is, this is a brutal one, this is probably 15 years ago. I went to spiritual counseling and I forgave the guy who molested me. And I did that, I say fairly quickly. It probably took me 10 minutes or so to sit there and pray and, okay, God, help me forgive this joker, because that's not the feeling I have. The feeling I have is I want to do something different. So now I say 10 minutes. And that was, I don't know how old I was. So I was probably mid-30s at the time. So, I mean, it took me 10 minutes of focusing on it. It was a 30-year journey to get to that point. What was the hardest thing was all the damage that I have caused people in my life. That took me almost a full hour of sitting there. The counselors, there was a husband-wife counselor, and they said, okay, do you believe that God forgives you for all the crap you've done to other people in your life? With my low EQ and my sin and pride and arrogance and immaturity, and do you believe God forgives you? That took me a hot minute. And I said, look, I know biblically, God forgives me. Like I know all the church answers. So yes, I know God can forgive me. Anyway, I finally got to a place where, yes, I believe God. Yes, I believe God forgives me. Then they said, okay, do you forgive yourself? And and then they said, repeat after me. I forgive myself for all the pain and harm that I have done to others. So they said, repeat after me and say that. I forgive myself for all the pain and harm and whatever. And I physically couldn't say it for an hour. Literally, we did not move on for one full hour. So think about sitting there for one full hour and not being able to. I physically couldn't say the words. I forgive myself. I was, unbeknownst to me, the hardest one of all the people that have, hurt me. I was the one that was the hardest to forgive for all the stuff that I've done to hurt other people, and my relationship with God too, right? And so I just want to encourage you guys to think about and pray about how you view forgiveness? Do you have anyone in your life that you need to forgive and release? And even biblically, I want to say Romans 8, don't quote me on that because I don't remember exactly. God says, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. So, because I wanted vengeance on the guy who molested me. I wanted vengeance on a couple of these other folks that I feel did me wrong. And God's like, dude, again, part of the maturing process is forgiving. It's a part of emotional, spiritual maturity. It's not Noble's responsibility to repay back hurt for hurt. And so part of my maturation process has been to forgive the people that have hurt me and release them. And again, I can choose to pursue restoration of that relationship or not. And, with a number of these folks, I don't. Now, here's another thing. Another topic, but it kind of touches on this too. In my episode with Dr. Brooks Gibbs, he said one of the greatest signs of high emotional intelligence is being unoffendable. So, is some of the hurt and pain that I feel other people have caused me been due to my emotional immaturity? If I was emotionally healthy and emotionally mature, if those same people would have done the same thing to Jesus, would Jesus have been hurt, angry, upset? Now, possibly. Now, obviously, the getting molested thing, yeah, of course, right? Jesus would have been pissed, and he would have been pissed. I don't know what Jesus would have done if he would have smoked him or zapped him with a lightning bolt or something. I have no idea. I'm not Jesus, so in some cases, yes. And in some cases, maybe not, because it was just, I took offense because of where I was at emotionally at that time in my life. Now, all that's just a little side note, a little side trail. The bottom line is forgiveness is our responsibility. It's our responsibility. No one can forgive for us. So we have to develop the skill of spiritual and emotional and mental maturity of forgiving others and forgiving ourselves for all the things that have been done to us and that we have done to others out of pride, anger, emotional immaturity. And pay attention to your emotions and your mind, your mental clarity, if or when you're able to get better at forgiving yourself and others. Just pay attention and see what happens to your mental state and your emotional state and even your physical state. And pray about this. Pray about, and here's another one, forgiving God. That's another big one. There may be some things that have, again, using when I was 5. There was a time when I was pissed at God. Dude, how could you let this happen to a freaking 5-year-old? Where were you at? What gives? We live in a sinful world with, hurting and broken humans. We're surrounded by hurting and broken humans that haven't healed the junk in their trunk. And then we're surprised when we hurt each other as humans. And we take that out many times, sometimes on God. Well, God, it's your fault. It's not God's fault that some knucklehead did something to me. That's what happens when sin entered the world, right? So I also had to forgive God as well. So anyway, I just felt compelled to talk about forgiveness today. And I'm grateful for you guys. I'm grateful for you. There's a couple folks, there's a few folks at work that listen to my podcast, so I gotta pay attention to what I say and don't say. And great people, man. These folks are just. I'm so grateful. It's encouraging to me. That they tell me, man, Noble, hey, man, I really got a lot out of this episode or that episode. And it's encouraging. I don't ever get feedback from the podcast. So it's really encouraging. Yeah, it's encouraging. So anyway, I'm really genuinely grateful for all of you. And I pray that something that I share would encourage somebody else, encourage you, or convict you, or challenge you, or uplift you. And thank you for being a part of this journey with me. It's a little bit embarrassing at how much I still face plant in my own emotional journey, even after working on it for a decade at this point, maybe over a decade at this point. And so I'm still on this journey of growing up and maturing. And I have changed, so I'm so grateful. I have changed. I have truckloads of areas that I can point to prove my proof of growth. And I know that I have a number of areas that I still have to grow in and mature in. So I'm grateful that God isn't done with me yet. God's not done with you yet. You are worth it. You are worth becoming the best version that God's created you to be for you, for your family, for your coworkers. And I am so grateful for you.